Hi folks, Seth Leapson here. Thanks for watching my monologue. In these uncertain times, you may be thinking about personal protection. If you are, I urge you to visit my friends at Guns Etc. They'll help you find the perfect protection for yourself and your family, and they can even teach you how to use it. They've been protecting Arizonans for over 33 years, and they stand for the great principles this country was founded upon. Or you can just click on gunsetcetera.com. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Welcome back and happy November 17th, 2020. Was it Larry Elder who said this morning, there's nothing to instill confidence in an election with a lot of irregularities than to learn this morning that 2,600 votes were just discovered that were uncounted in Georgia, the majority for Donald Trump? The great Roger Kimball calls this the Goldfinger theory. It's partly a matter of what I think of as the Goldfinger principle. He says, after the avid gold smelter and nuclear weapons amateur, Auric Goldfinger. Goldfinger was a sensitive man. He didn't like it when people began looking into his business ventures with too much curiosity, largely, no doubt, because many were ostentatiously illegal, and in some cases evidence of grandiose homicidal insanity. Nevertheless, his response to the repeated and unscheduled appearance of James Bond in his life prompted him to make the eminently rational observation that once is happenstance, twice coincidence, the third time it's enemy action. Of course, that's a big part of why we hear so much about and so many calls for unity from the Democrats. Resistance is gone. Get up in their faces is gone. Do not concede is gone. It's almost as if the Youngbloods were dictating our new national ethos. Come on, people, now. Smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Or as Kamala Harris tweeted last week, quote, hope, unity, decency, truth, close quote. George Orwell eerily put it this way, quote, a nation of warriors and fanatics marching forward in perfect unity, all thinking the same thoughts and shouting the same slogans, perpetually working, fighting, triumphing, persecuting, close quote. Tyler Cowen puts it this way. What is the current take on foreign interference in the 2020 presidential election? I hardly hear anyone mention this. Was there much? If not, why not? Our sagest minds were warning of this for years, and I heard several national security experts warn me of this but a few weeks ago. There have been hundreds of media articles about the topic. So what is up? I see a few options. One, there was lots of foreign interference again, but things turned out okay, so it's not a major issue. Never mind. Two, President Donald Trump ensured election integrity through vigilance, good policy, and cooperation with Vladimir Putin. Three, local election authorities were alert this time around, and they choked off each and every instance of foreign election interference. Four, the major tech companies were alert this time around, and they choked off each and every instance of foreign election interference in the sense that they didn't even let the Ruskies spend $60,000 on Facebook ads. Those are such great companies, after all. 5, foreign election interference was never much of a significant issue to begin with. Never mind. 6, foreign powers are now all in each and every country committed to free and fair American elections, and they acted accordingly. To be clear, I'm not asking which is true. I'm asking which one I'm supposed to believe. All to which John Hinderocker adds, here's an idea. Maybe we should make up out of whole cloth the claim that the communist Chinese colluded with Joe Biden in his campaign to swing the election to Biden by organizing groups of activists to collect misaddressed or otherwise available ballots and ballot applications and mail them in, by harvesting ballots for Biden and by hacking into various states' electoral software, much as the Russians hacked into the DNC's email system in 2016, and altering vote totals in Biden's favor. We could make up a bunch of fake memos supporting these claims and pull them together in a single document. We could call that document a dossier to make it sound more official. We could then leak the dossier to the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN, and for the next 4 years, every news organ in America will devote itself to propagating the claims that we made up. House of Representatives, which should be in Republican hands after 2022, can then impeach the Manchurian candidate for colluding with the Chi-Coms and stealing the election. All right, some elements of the plan won't work. The press is resolutely on the side of Biden and the Chi-Coms. But still, the idea that Joe Biden colluded with the Chinese communists, who undoubtedly are eager to see him win the election, is far more plausible than the fantasy that Vladimir Putin wanted the America First candidate to win in 2016. Russia's main interest in American elections is that the U.S. not develop its fossil fuel resources, which is why the Russians have long financed our environmental movement. The Democrats are therefore Putin's party as well as Xi Jinping's. I think there was plenty of chicanery in this year's election, perhaps not including collusion. But when, if ever, will it be exposed? Don't hold your breath. We're still waiting for anything like a full accounting of the chicanery the Democrats pulled off in connection with the 2016 election. Now the question arises. If there's no coverage of what happened, did it happen? Pro-Trump supporters and voters marched by the tens of thousands in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. A lot of them were beaten up. At least one pro-Trump protester was stabbed. Oh yes, there were arrests, including on gun charges. Why do we not hear there were good people on both sides, or some very fine people on both sides? Because the only good people are or were the counter-protesters, the anti-Trump protesters, of course, at least to the mainstream media, anyway. A friend asked me to watch a video this morning of a D.C. police officer forcing a couple to walk through an energized BLM group rather than via a much shorter route and safer route to their hotel. The father, following police instructions, was punched and beaten as he went through the melee the police forced him to, and the police did not help. My friend asked, "Do you think most people know about this or have even seen this video?" My bigger worry, if they did, would they care? I don't know. I don't think so. My fear and our concern is that large swaths, if not majorities, think Trump supporters deserve to be physically beaten. After all, their lawyers are pressured not to work for the Trump campaign or they will get no more work. Congressmen and congresswomen and columnists for our nation's largest newspapers have said lists of Trump supporters should be kept. They should be taking names. Truth and reconciliation committees have been suggested. And now try and grasp and wrap your head around those who in these very political times yet still did not vote. Some 40% or so of the voting eligible public didn't vote. Over 100 million people eligible didn't vote. Are they simply apathetic? Some, a lot, maybe. But in especially charged times, to see over 100 million Americans eligible to vote and not do so is something we need as conservatives to work on. We are tasked in making them care about things, are we not? Care enough to be involved? Let's say the typical non-voter doesn't see or think that his or her vote matters and that it's a hassle to go vote anyway. What if they do well enough that they just don't see presidential elections affecting them? Well, we need to find an issue that they do care about, or try and communicate the importance of what we think is important. Healthcare, issues regarding life, race issues, foreign policy, judges, spending, taxes. Just a tentative thought I'm willing to have you talk me out of. We spend a lot of time debating the other side, or trying to, or at least trying to answer them. We spend a lot of time bolstering our own points of view and perspectives, talking to each other, but we have neglected maybe a full third of the country in not addressing them where they are, or consigning ourselves to not caring about them not caring. Has anyone written anything smart on this? I don't know. But it seems if we're to build our cause and our party, we need to find the apathetic and make them, well, pathetic. Good word that. It's underused. From the Latin patheticus, from Greek pathetikos, subject to feeling, sensitive, capable of emotion. From patheos, liable to suffer. Seems we have too many among us who simply don't care or care enough about others suffering or things they might think are important to worry or suffer about. In the past, we relied on informed and caring citizens based on first children's stories and nursery rhymes and common understandings. We may not have that anymore. Asked by Brian Lamb why he wrote the Book of Virtues back in the 1990s, William Bennett answered, self-discipline, courage, compassion, faith, friendship, the other virtues. It's about the hard realities that constitute the virtues. We used to teach them in the schools. They're important for young people to learn. It's how we instill a sense of right and wrong. Virtue is about the strengthening of the character of the young to restore the notion of moral education to a respectable place in our deliberations. It seems to me if you care about the virtues, you understand there are two ways to maintain them, in the home and in the polis, or city, as the Greeks understood it. And polis is, of course, where the word politics comes from. This is what makes politics so important, to help the home and to help the city, or our community. They reinforce each other. But I think too many are apathetic to all this from lack of education in all these things. It just seems to me it's our task to change that, and in so doing, perhaps adding tens and tens and tens of millions to our rolls. That's where we need to go next, it seems to me. Hard to care about fellow citizens getting beaten up for a political point of view if you don't care at all about politics or your fellow citizens, or if you do and you're miseducated in it, thinking or trained and conditioned to think that those getting beaten up deserved it, had it coming. This is why it's hard to be a conservative. We've talked about this before. It's because we have to push up against the pollutants in the national narrative, shaped by so many institutions we've spoken about for years. Their smokestacks are at the same time numbing to too many and toxic to others. We're always trying to clean the air. We have to keep at it, but we also have to reach those, until now, who have not seen a stake in it. As old Abraham Lincoln put it, it's all our territory. Let's treat it that way. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.